Om Sahanā-Vavatu Sahanā Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Ambalo Satguru Shivananda Maharaj Ki Jai, for all the saints and sages of all the traditions. Okay, so the questions the disciple asks, the student asks, are twofold. What is this bondage or suffering? What is this bondage? Same thing, I'm bound to suffer, it seems. So, bound to suffering. What is this bondage? What is its nature? When did it start? And how to be free of it. And then also please tell me about the non-Atman, the Atman, and how to discern the difference between the two. So we come back to the bondage, and what is it? What is the cause of it? When did it begin, and how to be free of it? And that brings us to the discussion of Maya. We've been talking about non-Atman and Atman. We'll discuss more over the next couple of days. Today, Maya. And we'll thank dear Saraswati for this article that she sent just a few days ago. Yeah. Oh, we have to do it this way. It's disappeared for a moment, but it'll come right back. I'll introduce it and then read a little bit and we'll discuss. There we go. Okay. So, we've been making the comparison. We do it often between the discoveries of modern science. Science is not inventing anything, but they're probing this reality from the outside in order to discover what it is. What is this reality? What is this universe? What is it made of? And of course, Shankaracharya comes from the inside out. Shankaracharya is in that residing in that place in the center, and what we call a seer, sage, and is seeing it, it is sharing it from the view of it from the inside, as it were, out, experientially. So, dear, and personally, science has been very interesting. When I realized that I didn't know anything, meaning I didn't know where happiness is, and that's all I actually wanted. So I didn't know anything of merit. And what I discovered is actually I didn't know anything. I could just leave it like that. Nothing. I turned to science, which had always been the go-to. And that's what took me to the study of what it is that science has been up to, physics specifically, and cosmology, the cosmos, study of the cosmos, over the last 100 years, what they've been up to. So we studied quantum physics, etc. I mean, not as a student, not in the way that the scientists do, but we wanted to know what science understood about what this world is, and that led us on a mysterious journey. At the same time as we were studying Shankaracharya, so here's the latest. And this is an article in Scientific American, and it's very recent. It's October 6th of 2022. So it's this month. It's not quite 2 weeks ago. And dear Saraswati had sent it out and shared it, and we reviewed it and some of the underlying. This speaks to the Nobel Prize in Physics that was awarded this year, the 2022 Nobel Prize in Physics, and the winners, there are 3 that were awarded this Nobel Prize for work in quantum physics specifically. And I'll read a little of the article. So Scientific American, that's a real science publication. This is, right? You've heard of it? You've heard of it? I think everyone on with us probably has heard of it. One of the more unsettling discoveries in the past half century is that the universe is not locally real. Real, meaning that objects have definite properties independent of observation. For example, that an apple could be red even when no one is looking. So what's being discussed here is that the discovery in quantum behaviors, quantum physics, is that when we break the atom and we go to the smallest of the particles, we find that, and we're looking for the underlying reality, what is the smallest particle that together makes up this universal reality. And the discovery in working with that was that, in fact, there was a very mysterious behavior, which is that when you broke the atom down so far, you found the underlying reality of it to be a wave. Mm-hmm. And how was it that the wave then became an atom? And what was discovered is that the act of observation itself caused the wave to take a particular nature, take on a particular nature. So one might have expected that subatomic particles would be like miniature ball bearings. Like that, because you look at them under an electron microscope and they're round, the subatomic particles. The electrons are spinning around a round center, like the planets in the solar system. So if you pull them apart from each other, they should be round, like little ball bearings. And so in the experimental work, these little ball bearings were shot out of a proton gun against through a slit, what's called the double slit experiment, through 2 slits onto a back wall, and in shooting them through, they formed a wave pattern. Yeah. Interference pattern, yeah, thank you, on the back wall. So the discovery was that they were really waves, not particles at that level. And that drove Einstein crazy. And this is discussed here. So, and since then, physics has been involved in discovering which is real. Of the two, of this apparent reality, is it real or is this mysterious underlier real? Okay. So, and this concept of the observer, it'll be said like this, that there is a field of potentiality. This is what's being observed in the quantum behavior and the small or the super small, that those waves exist as a field of potentiality. And based on the act of observation itself, they collapse into an object, an apparent object. They become, as it were, or they manifest, as it were. So the observer itself, meaning without the observer, they remain as a field of potentiality. This is what it appears to be when we look at the quantum behaviors. So the point here about real being made is that Einstein would have said, and we would have said, not studying the nature of life, not not diving into life to discover its veracities and realities, what is it really, we would have said that, of course, the apple on the tree, independent of an observer, would be red. That the observer itself, but quantum physics says no. That the characteristics of what you call apple would have existed as non-determinate field of potentiality until the observer observes, and only then would it be red apple. Which is mind-boggling. Okay. So that's what they mean by real. Real meaning that objects have definite properties independent of observation. Local means objects can only be influenced by their surroundings, and that any influence cannot travel faster than light. Well, we can discuss that for a moment too. So it can only be influenced by their surroundings. So take a ball. So there's a process of making the ball, fine. The ball is made by its surroundings, by the machine, by the tool maker, by the computer that spits out the code, all of that, made by its surroundings, as it were. And then here in this room, we throw it, and it bounces according to very predictable properties, yeah?
Yes.
So I can hit that ceiling back there by throwing it on the floor in the proper way.
Yep.
So, meaning local. Mm-hmm. That ball is not influenced or made of anything other than what's right here and right now. Objects can only be influenced by their surroundings, and that any influence cannot travel faster than light. Why is that a big deal? Because nothing can travel faster than light. No thing can travel faster than light.
That's true.
Not a thing, I'm saying in different ways, please forgive me, but not a thing can travel faster than light. Nothing can travel faster than light. And we know this. In fact, Einstein made a life's work of working with light and time and understanding the properties of light and time. And he understood not just that light and time were relative, but the speed of light is fixed, not relative. The speed of light is fixed, not relative. Mm-hmm. It's relative to the observer, as it were, but it's actually a fixed speed. And he defined the speed of light. And what was discovered about the speed of light? Well, it's X number of million miles per second. And please forgive, I don't remember the number. I could look up Google Swami, that would take longer. So if someone would like, joining us online, would like to look up on Google Swami, or perhaps you remember the speed of light, please type it in for us, and later on we'll check on it. So X number of million miles per second, whatever it is. And what was discovered is that however fast you're going, for you as an individual, light goes that plus X number of million miles per second. So the speed of light itself is fixed to the observer. So if you travel the speed of light, it travels away from you at the speed of light. This was one of Einstein's great discoveries, which led him to the discovery of the relativity of time. So nothing can go faster than the speed of light. And that's why, in looking for an ultimate reality, science says what's real means locally real. Locally. Here, I can hold it in my hand, so it's local. Yeah, I can hold this in my hand, so it's local. And local also means that the entirety of this is local. And nothing underlying it, no aspect of the reality of it, can travel faster than the speed of light, because that means it's not real and it's not a thing. Oh. Because nothing can. Even the waves don't travel faster than the speed of light. light waves are the fastest waves that we've, okay. Oh, please forgive. I used to get very excited about science. It's good stuff. This is Maya.
Yeah.
This is Maya. We'll pull out what Shankara describes Maya to be here in a moment, but we figured, okay, what do the scientists say? So, investigations at the frontier of quantum physics have found that these things cannot both be true. So things, this universe, cannot both be real and local from this. Instead, the evidence shows objects are not influenced solely by their surroundings, and they may also lack definite properties prior to measurement. As Albert Einstein famously bemoaned to a friend, do you really believe the moon is not there when you're not looking at it? And the discovery is, it's not there when you're not looking at it. When the observer is not observing it, this is what quantum physics is saying. And so there's been this fight within science to determine which is true, that there is a local reality and that the moon does exist independent of observation. And quantum physicists saying, no, it doesn't seem so. Which is freaky. Okay, and then the author says, this, of course, is deeply contrary to our everyday experiences. To paraphrase Douglas Adams, the demise of local realism has made a lot of people very angry and has been widely regarded as a bad move. So there are people within science saying, why the heck did you do this? Why did you keep on looking? We were just fine if you just would have stopped there. We could have gone on believing that this is real.
Yeah.
Independently real. Shankara would say, of course there is reality. There has to be reality. The scientists understand that now. But now, for God's sakes, they have to try to find it. And they can't find it. So the author continues. Blame for this achievement has now been laid squarely on the shoulders of three physicists, John Clauser, Alain Aspect, and Anton Zeilinger. So blame for it is their fault. They equally split the 2022 Nobel Prize in Physics, quote, for experiments with entangled photons establishing the violation of Bell inequalities and pioneering quantum information science. In other words, they have proven that the universe is not locally real. Proven it. They go on and talk a little bit about how they did. We'll read a little bit of that and then we'll pick up with Shankaracharya. So, and then they try, scientists being scientists, then they try to figure out, okay, well, this isn't what we expected, but what can we do with it? That's how it turns out that modern semiconductor material science relies upon this quantum behavior and the predictability of it. It can't be predicted 100%, but at a higher level, it's possible to predict. Yeah, approximately. So Swami Shivananda would say, in the world, there's always a proportion of things. So if there's a certain number of rogues, very bad characters, there's a certain, although smaller, number of saints.
Yes.
And so there's a probability. And so material science now works with that probability. For X number of these atoms, there are likely to be Y number of these.
Yes.
Although it can't be defined atom by atom, because the atoms aren't atoms. Please forgive. This is what, okay. So, they won this year's Nobel Prize in Physics. Colleagues agreed that the trio had it coming, deserving this reckoning for overthrowing reality as we know it. This is in the article. And then somebody's quoting and saying, it's fantastic news, it was long overdue.
Oh, yeah.
Without any doubt, the prize is well deserved, he goes on to say, for these dastardly folks who discovered that reality as we know it is not real. The experiment begins with the earliest one of Clauser and continuing along, show that this stuff isn't just philosophical, it's real. And like other real things, potentially useful. And then they go on to discuss how it might be useful. And by the way, it's useful to the yogi. It's useful because it's possible to realize it directly and to be free of suffering.
Yeah. That sounds useful. Yeah.
That seems to be the best use. Okay. So they go on to say, Quantum Foundation's journey from fringe to favor was a long one. From 1940 until as late as 1990, the topic was treated as philosophy at best and crackpottery at worst.
Oh, yeah.
Many scientific journals refused to publish papers in Quantum Foundations, and academic positions indulging such investigations were nearly impossible to come by. In 1985, Popescu's advisor warned him against a PhD in the subject. He said, look, if you do that, you'll have fun for 5 years, and then you'll be jobless. So this is the discussion within the scientific community.
It's all of them.
So
They knew it.
they talk a little bit about quantum computers, and then here. The trouble with quantum mechanics was never that it made the wrong predictions. In fact, the theory described the microscopic world splendidly well right from the start when physicists devised it in the opening decades of the 20th century. What Einstein, Boris Podolsky, and Nathan Rosen took issue with, laid out in their iconic 1935 paper, which Swami did have to read some of, I might read the rest of it, was the theory's uncomfortable implications for reality. Their analysis, known by the initials EPR, centered on a thought experiment meant to illustrate the absurdity of quantum mechanics, to show how under certain conditions the theory can break, or at least deliver nonsensical results that conflict with everything else we know about reality. A simplified and modernized version of this EPR goes something like this. Pairs of particles are sent off in different directions from a common source. So from here, we send two particles to the opposite ends of the universe. This is the thought experiment. Okay. Alice and Bob, two observers, targeted for two observers. Alice is at one end of the universe, Bob is at the other end of the universe. Or they say solar system. Each stationed at opposite ends of the solar system. Quantum mechanics dictates that it is impossible to know the spin, a quantum property of individual particles prior to measurement. The spin is up or down like that. So we can visualize it like that. It's up or down or left or right. When Alice measures one of her particles, she finds its spin to be either up or down. Her results are random. So she, on one end of the solar system, looks at her particle and she sees the spin of it. And that seems to be random. Huh? You don't know what it's going to be in advance.
Right.
So she determines, she measures, and she finds it to be up or down. Yeah. And when she does, she instantly knows Bob's corresponding particle. If she discovers up, she instantly knows that his corresponding particle across the universe is down.
Oh.
Now, this doesn't make any sense at all.
Because it's in duality.
So, at first glance, this is not so odd. Perhaps the particles are like a pair of socks. If Alice gets the right sock, Bob must have the left. But under quantum mechanics, particles are not like socks, and only when measured do they settle on a spin of up or down. So before they're measured, before they're observed, they are neither potential. But when measured, they then are up or down. But as soon as they're measured, this is the thought exercise. This is what quantum physics, the discoveries, seem to be telling us. that across the solar system, this is this entanglement, which Einstein called spooky action at a distance. He said, no way, this can't be it. The universe doesn't operate like this. So, if Alice's particles lack a spin until measurement, how then, when they whiz past Neptune, do they know what Bob's particles will do as they fly out of the solar system in the other direction? Each time Alice measures, she effectively quizzes her particle on what Bob will get if he flips a coin, up or down. The odds of correctly predicting this, even 200 times in a row, are 1 in 10 to the 60th, a number greater than all the atoms in the solar system. Yet, despite the billions of kilometers that separate the particle pairs, quantum mechanics says Alice's particles can keep correctly predicting as though they were telepathically connected to Bob's particles. Now, the last part of this that we'll read. Although intended to reveal the imperfections of quantum mechanics, when real-world versions of the EPR thought experiment are conducted, the results instead reinforce the theory's most mind-boggling tenets. Under quantum mechanics, nature is not locally real. Particles lack properties such as spin up or spin down prior to measurement, and seemingly talk to each other no matter what the distance. And so, what does that mean? Well, we could say in a way, it means that beyond time, space and time itself is a set of laws and a controller. Unmanifest. Unmanifest. And that everything here which appears to be separate is one.
Yes.
Is part of one unity, which could never be separated. Which could never be separated. So, therefore, this apparent distance of billions of kilometers between this particle and that particle actually doesn't exist. So, yeah, mind-boggling. Okay, now let's read a little bit about what Shankara says about Maya. Which is not so freaky if we grasp what's being shared here. Maya, in her potential aspect, is the divine power of the Lord. She has no beginning. She's composed of the 3 gunas, subtle beyond perception, so cannot be seen beyond the speed of light. The speed of light defines the field of the known. Beyond it is unknowable. So she is unknowable, he says. Beyond perception, so no ability to perceive with the 5 senses. It is from the effects she produces that her existence is inferred by the wise. It is she who gives birth to the whole universe. So inferred by the wise. The wise have negated, in the same way that science has, the universe is locally real. And so they know that there is a deeper reality. That deeper reality is not understood, but it is known to exist. And it seems that science is pretty well there, yeah, with this.
So this means that now in science, this is recognized by the mainstream science? Not just
the rest of what's being shared? No, of course not. Of course not.
They believe it, but they can't practice it.
No, it's not. It's not that. It's not that. There's no belief about it. There's proof that the universe is not locally real. That's as far as it goes.
Yeah.
The question is, what is the reality? And that's a question of philosophy.
Yeah.
Without experience, without direct experience, that's a question. That's a philosophical question. Yeah. She is neither, so let's just be present for what he shares. She is neither being nor non-being, nor a mixture of both. She is neither divided nor undivided, nor a mixture of both. She is neither an indivisible whole, nor composed of parts, nor a mixture of both. She is most strange. Her nature is inexplicable. Just as knowing a rope to be a rope destroys the illusion that it is a snake, so Maya is destroyed by direct perception of Brahman, the pure, the free, the one without a second. Maya is composed of three gunas, of the gunas, the forces which are known as Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. They have distinctive characteristics. So these three are beyond the speed of light, beyond the light, so not perceivable in seed form. They are unmanifest, whole and complete, and in balance in seed form. So when we say Purusha, seed form, beyond unmanifest. These three have distinctive characteristics. Rajas has the power of projection. Its nature is activity. Through its power, the phenomenal world, which is involved in Maya, begins to evolve. And the yogi would say, yes, this is it. This is the power, which is the force causing the apparent universe to expand and driving all of the creation, all of the creative aspects. So, what is the power with which that energy exists and which powers or enables it becoming an apparent thing? So that is said to be rajas. So the power of projection. Attachment, desire, and similar qualities are caused by its power, by rajas, as are grief and similar moods of the mind. Recognizing mind is first created. So what we see out is existent in mind. Lust, anger, greed, arrogance, jealousy, egotism, envy, and other such vices are the worst characteristics of rajas. When a man is overpowered by it, he attaches himself to worldly actions. Hence, rajas is the cause of bondage. So he says both the projection, power of projection, or creation, what we call creation, but it's really projection, as has been discovered in modern science, modern physics. It appears to be, but it's not. Okay. So what is? Well, it's the underlier, which is inexplicable but exists. It can be inferred. Yeah? Okay. Nothing comes from nothing. In other words, something can't come from nothing. And so, rajas. But then, what is the cause of bondage? Lust, anger, greed, arrogance, jealousy, egotism, envy, and other such vices, which are also characteristics of rajas. Tamas has the power of veiling the real nature of an object, making it appear other than it is. It is the cause of man's continued subjection to the wheel of birth and death. It also makes possible the operation of the power of rajas. So, if this is not as it appears to be, which we can say is true, it is not as it appears to be, then how is it that it appears to be this? Clearly, I'm suffering from a delusion if I'm not able to recognize what it is. That delusion is tamas. And this is what's shared. A man may be intelligent, clever, and learned. He may have a faculty of keen self-analysis, but if he is overpowered by tamas, he cannot understand the true nature of the I, the Atman, even though it may be clearly explained to him in various ways. So I would sit with Swami Prabhavananda day after day after day. And I had such a strong desire to know truth. That's all I wanted, is I wanted to know the truth. That's all I wanted. And to serve it. And I would sit with him day after day after day. And it was very clear that he got it. It was very clear that he experienced it. And yet somehow I couldn't get it. Yeah, Hari, we sit together day after day after day after day. Yeah, and it's right here. It's all there is. And yet, not getting it, why not? Tamas. Tamas. So what is it that's covering it? What is it that's veiling it? And what is it that's preventing this mind, which is sharp about other things, from getting it? And by the way, eventually it's possible. But this is why we have to work with the energies, cultivate sattva, all of this. This is why the yogi has to do what we do in order to speed things up. Get there quicker. We have to work with this mind, and which is discussed. And as we continue from tomorrow morning, really we focus on how to get out of it. Failure to perceive the actual object, seeing something as different from what it really is, vacillation of the mind, where the mind, look at the mind, it goes from one place to another, just like that. We can say, I'm going to sit and meditate, quiet the mind, and all of a sudden Mars. Or something else. What someone did 50 years ago. Sorry, in our case, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Comes to the mind. Vacillation of the mind.
Yes.
Taking delusions for realities. Simple things like addictive substances. And there's a voice in the head that says, yeah, go for it. It'll be fine. And yet our lived experience says, no, it's not fine. What is that? Why in the world is that? Let alone what is really ultimately beneficial, let alone what is the reality here. Right? Life seems one way, but it is another. This is what we're discovering. It seems one way, but it is another. Why does it seem that way? Tamas. As long as a man is attached to tamas, he can never get free from them, the delusions. And rajas also will trouble him without ceasing. Tamas has these further characteristics: ignorance, laziness, dullness, sleep, delusion, and stupidity. We won't say sleep is bad. We won't actually say any of this is bad. But if we're talking about how to end the suffering, then we need to learn how to discern and how to rise up out of it, out of the morass, which is possible to do. A man who's under their influence, tamas and rajas, cannot understand anything. He lives like a somnambulist or an unconscious log of wood, thinking we're doing something important.
Just the way it is.
But discovering that whatever we do goes for naught. It just ends up still in bondage to something different, maybe. And still at the end of all of our travails, facing death. The end of the opportunity to do something to get happiness. Yeah? And something in us even hiding us from the fact that everything we do here will end in death and it will be over. And whatever was trying to be acquired will be lost again.
And that's it.
So even hiding us from this. Yeah? And then he says, sattva is purity. Even when it is mixed with rajas and tamas, as water is mixed with water, it lights the way to liberation. Sattva reveals the Atman as the sun reveals the objective world. Sattva, when And we can even say with the scientists, what is it that urges the quest towards truth? They may not be looking in the right place exactly, but they keep going. And they discover what is more real as they go. Also sattva. Rajas and tamas are there, but also that's sattva. So sattva, when mixed with the other gunas, has these characteristics: absence of pride, purity, contentment, austerity, a desire to study the scriptures, self-surrender to God, harmlessness, truthfulness, continence, freedom from greed, faith, devotion, longing for liberation, aversion to the things of this world, and the other virtues that lead towards God. Sattva in its pure state has the following characteristics: tranquility, direct perception of the Atman, of the real I, absolute peace, contentment, joy, and steady devotion to the Atman. Through these, the seeker tastes everlasting bliss. Maya has been defined as a composition of the three gunas. It is the causal body of the Atman. So this Maya is the first body, the most fine body of the universal soul. Of the universal soul. Okay, so I'll stop here for the morning. Let's check for questions or comments. There we go.
Jagadish is saying, remembering from the intro, listen, decide, live out.
What did he say? Listen?
Listen, decide, live out.
Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Yeah, listen, contemplate. So decide, contemplate. But also when we discuss the powers that are in our hands, the discernment, power to choose, power to question, power to choose, and will, self-effort. So, the study would be without merit if we could not do something about our situation. If we were just discovering what our situation is, it would be hopeless.
Yeah.
And that's why the scientists say, why did you do this? We were suffering okay, but we thought we'd find. But it ends in a mystery.
Yeah. Crushes the material.
What saves it is that you are that mystery. You are that mystery. And that mystery is free of taint, free of suffering, free of all of the stuff that's happening here. You are that mystery. You are the Atman. You are Brahman. Non-different. Naparaha. Non-different. So, and even the process of logic, pure logic, would get there. Because whatever is the reality, I am that. Whatever is the reality, I am non-different from it. Is it so?
Has to be.
So that's the good news, is as the Buddha said. There is suffering. This world, living in the world as the worldly, is suffering.
Yeah.
Is suffering. The cause of the suffering, craving and delusion. But the suffering can end. It's possible to go beyond it. Why? Because you are not that which suffers. And it can be done through your own practice. As we said, if it weren't for that, then don't tell us about this teaching. If it weren't for that, then let's not talk about reality, because that seems very dire. But to have the possibility to recognize the reality that you are, to experience it directly. This is what yoga is. Okay, let's close. Final prayers and arati. Short version, page 156. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Orvai Rukameva Bandhanan Mritor Mokshiyamamritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Orvai Rukameva Bandhanan Mritor Mokshiyamamritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Orvai Rukameva Bandhanan Mritor Mokshiyamamritat Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O adorable Lord of mercy and love, let us abide in Thee forever and ever. Ambalo Satguru Shivananda Maharaj Ki Jai, for all the saints and sages of all the traditions. Jai.